Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Frank Colley. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal William Edward Brooke, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to acknowledge Mr. Brad Buswell, Senior Vice President, Security Detection and Automation at Leidos, United States of America, accompanied by members of the Australian leadership team, Leidos Australia. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial and students from St Francis Xavier's Primary School, Lake Cargelligo, New South Wales. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Catapult party, shoulder, arms. Catapult party, order, arms.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal William Edward Brooke. William Edward Brooke was born in West Ham, England, in around 1887 and was known by his family and friends as Bill. He attended school in England and later joined the Royal Navy, serving for 5 years. Brooke migrated to Australia at the age of 16. He became an engine driver in the settlement of Pellore, Maine, inland from Newcastle, New South Wales. He worked on the railways for the large coal mine that was the main employer in the town. Brooke married his sweetheart, Isabella, and the couple had 2 children, Billy and Peggy. In September 1916, Brooke enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. Because of his previous naval experience, he was given the temporary rank of corporal for the duration of the voyage to England. He embarked from Sydney in November 1916 aboard the troop ship Suevec. When he arrived in England, he reverted to the rank of private and travelled to the training camps on the Salisbury Plain. In February 1917, he was once again given the temporary rank of corporal, this time so that he could train soldiers in physical fitness. Later that year, he passed an instruction course in physical and bayonet training. Brooke continued training soldiers until October 1917, when he again reverted to private, this time sailing to France and the fighting on the Western Front. There he joined his unit, the 54th Battalion, which was preparing for the winter on the Franco-Belgian border. Having demonstrated his leadership potential, Brooke was promoted to the rank of Lance Corporal shortly after joining his unit in the field. The 54th Battalion spent much of the winter training behind the lines in northern France. In February 1918, the unit moved into the front in Belgium. In mid-March 1918, German forces launched what was to be their last major assault of the war. Known as the Spring Offensive, it aimed to capture the important rail hub of Amiens. Many Australian units were rushed to the defence of this vital city. The 54th Battalion took up a position north of the village of Villers-Bretonneux, just east of Amiens. In early April, the Germans attempted to capture this town, but were prevented from doing so by the British and Australian troops. In the aftermath of the fighting, sporadic gunfire and artillery shelling was still taking place. On the 7th of April, Brooke was struck in the chest by a bullet. He was evacuated to a nearby casualty clearing station, but died of his wounds on the 10th of April, 1918. He was 31 years old. Bill Brooke was buried in the Piquigny British Cemetery, the final resting place of some 130 Commonwealth soldiers who died in the First World War. Brooke was survived by his widow, Isabella, and children, Billy and Peggy. The family suffered further pain when the package containing his personal effects was lost. It was bound for Australia on the steamship Barunga when that ship was torpedoed by a German submarine off the coast of Cornwall in July 1918. British destroyers were soon on the scene and managed to rescue all aboard, but Brooke's personal effects were lost, along with those of about 5,000 other Australian soldiers who had died on the Western Front. Lance Corporal William Edward Brooke is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. The photograph displayed today beside the pool of reflection shows a group of physical fitness trainers taken at the training camps on the Salisbury Plain. Bill Brooke can be seen in this photograph, seated in the front row on the far right-hand side. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal William Edward Brooke, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
Control party, shoulder, arms.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Control party, present, arms. Control party, shoulder, arms.
Lest we forget,
Lest we forget.
Control party, in 1, 2. Control party, quick, march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.